The judgment declared Ontario violated the Constitution by suddenly shrinking the size of Toronto City Council seats to 25 from 47. But Premier Ford was undeterred. He will recall the legislature this Wednesday to vote on overriding the Constitution and imposing his government's plan on that vote. Just to review some constitutional history, this notwithstanding clause was a deal maker by the Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau to get provinces on side for the Charter of Rights. It gave provinces an escape clause from these imposed charter rights. It was used once by Saskatchewan on the workers' whack-to-work issue, but no other use has been successfully invoked outside of Quebec, I don't think. Its use this week was provoked by a court ruling that nixed the Ford Council reduction plan. It argued its imposition in the middle of a campaign would violate freedom of expression, charter rights for candidates and voters. And Premier Doug Ford joins us from Toronto. Premier, you're using a constitutional override that's going to kill the judge's verdict that actually has only been used by one premier outside of Quebec. Why is reducing the size of Toronto City Council so important that it justifies such drastic action?
Well, it's not even about that, Don. It's about protecting democracy. It's protecting the 2.3 million people that voted for our government. And let's just remind everyone that, this judge was appointed by one person. This government was elected by 2.3 million people. This city of Toronto is dysfunctional government. It's been dysfunctional for years. David Miller couldn't build transit. My own brother, Rob, could save $1.16 billion, but he couldn't build transit. John Tory talks a big game. He hasn't been able to find the shovel for the last 4 years to build transit. And we need a partner that has a government that can build transit, fix the crumbling infrastructure and the housing crisis that we're facing today. And with 47 councillors, and by the way, Don, no one challenged the city government when they increased the number of politicians from 44 to 47. We have 25 MPs, 25 MPPs, and we're going to have 25 city councillors.
I guess the question that was asked at your newser as well is this is considered, I guess, a political nuclear option, and yet you're going to use it to enforce something that was never even mentioned as part of your platform during the election campaign. Is it a proportional response, or are you not going excessively heavy-handed?
Well, again, during the election, I thought we were pretty clear about running government more efficiently, reducing the size and cost of government. If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. We're going to get the engine of Ontario, which is Toronto and the GTA, moving again. It's absolute gridlock everywhere in Toronto when it comes to traffic and the GTA. And the area of gridlock is down at City Hall because nothing's getting done to fix the problem. They talk a good game, but again, nothing's getting done whatsoever when it comes to housing, infrastructure, or transit.
It sounds like the judge felt that this would have been fine had it not been done in the middle of an election campaign. So could you not have waited till the next election after this one to do the changes you proposed?
Well, again, we're going to respectfully disagree with that comment there. In the middle of the election, we brought this forward in July. The election's not till the end of October. That's more than 90 days to go out there. And I also find it ironic that they're saying in the middle of the election, when on September 14th, anyone who doesn't want to run doesn't have to run. They can step down. So they're talking, again, out of both sides of their mouth that they're saying in the middle of the election. I want to remind everyone, when the writ was dropped of the province, it was 30 days. They've had 90 days to be out there campaigning, moving forward. And again, on September 14th, if they don't want to run, they don't run. So I'm protecting democracy. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue doing it.
I think it's interesting. You said that the judge was appointed, I was elected, and that's why you're doing this. And I'm curious.
No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason I'm doing this.
No,
I'm doing it because we were democratically elected to reduce the size and cost of government. Oh. And let's be very clear. I have a great deal of respect for our judicial system and for our judges. I respect the judge that made the decision. I totally disagree with him, but I don't just disagree with him. Every constitutional expert in the country disagrees with the judge's decision. Every single lawyer we've vetted it to disagrees with it, and everyone in Canada actually is shocked that a judge would come out and rule against democracy.
Right, but Premier, you did say certainly you're going against sort of lefties and activists. I'm curious, is this, a lot of people wonder if this is an activist judge, and you actually pointed out that he was appointed by a Liberal Premier. Was there a political agenda behind this verdict that you think exists?
No, you know something, as you know, Don, very clearly, my hands are tied. And they put a piece of duct tape over my mouth when you talk about judges' decisions, and that's really unfortunate. You know, comments about crickets and so on and so forth is all right on one side, but I can't say a word because the judge made a decision. Well, in saying that, I'll tell you what I'm going to say. I'm standing up for democracy. I'm standing up for the people that voted us in, 2.3 million people, to turn this province around, because it's in a financial disaster, and we're going to move forward turning this province around.
When you take me back to 8 o'clock this morning when you heard the verdict coming down, was this your immediate response? Is this something you planned to do, or did it come from your Attorney General? Where did the idea of taking this route come from?
Well, I'll tell you, we were shocked. Every constitutional expert that we ended up getting advice off of was shocked. Our cabinet was shocked. The people of Canada were shocked that, again, in the Constitution, in Section 92, subsection 8, says very clear that all municipalities are a creature of the province. I'm not too sure where the judge missed that. I'm sure he didn't, but he's the judge. He made a decision. He used every tool in his toolbox. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to make sure democracy is upheld.
You suggested the use of the notwithstanding clause could become more routine if required, that this might not be a one-off. And I'm curious when, and not if, the feds impose carbon pricing on Ontario, would that be notwithstanding clause worthy in your view?
Well, Don, again, I don't want to use the withstanding clause. What's very bothersome, in the last administration, when there was billions of dollars being wasted, scandals were happening every second day, it seemed, government was wasting money, I didn't see anyone suing the government. As of today, we have 10 lawsuits, and let's make no mistake about it, Don. These are downtown left-wing NDP councillors that voted against us. These are special activists that voted against us. And these councillors downtown, let's be very, very frank, I would question if the vast majority, maybe not all, vast majority, could not go out in the private sector and get a job paying $110,000 a year with a couple $100,000 of additional costs and expenses. They just wouldn't be able to survive in the private sector. So they're protecting their jobs. We had 18 out of 44 councillors vote in our favor. So by no means was this a clear majority. Matter of fact, it was very slim that they even won this vote. So we're going to stand up for the people. We're going to stand up for democracy, and we're going to get this this province moving in the right direction again.
One area that's very important to you, I know, is jobs for Ontario. And there's a report out last week that Ontario had lost a lot of jobs. But I'm curious, when we get to NAFTA looks like it could fall apart if Canada doesn't give up a little bit of dairy protection. Will you be fighting the Trudeau government if they reduce or eliminate protection for the dairy industry, or will you support that as a necessary evil, even if it costs auto sector jobs?
Well, you're putting a double-edged sword there. You're pegging the farmers against the automotive folks.
That might be the case.
I support both. Well, you know something? I support the farmers. I support the automotive sector, and I've stood shoulder to shoulder with the Prime Minister. I've talked to endless governors. I've been in communication with the U.S. ambassador on a frequent basis, making sure that we get this deal. There's almost a million jobs at stake right now on this deal. Again, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners and get this done, because this affects Ontario more than it affects any other province. We do $389 billion of trade between ourselves and the U.S. on just Ontario alone. So I'm going to be fighting for the people of Ontario.
Well, I don't want to make it a double-edged sword, but I do want to point out that if you keep dairy protection, you might lose auto sector workers, and so it's not necessarily, it could be an either, it could be you need to do one or the other to protect those jobs.
Well, Don, I can't speculate. I'm not sitting at the table. I know one thing: I'm going to protect supply management. I'm going to protect the automotive workers. I've talked to the big 5 automotive manufacturers. I've talked to the Magnas. I've talked to the DeFascos and the Stelcos and Algoma. I'm doing my job, and I'm sure the federal government's doing their job.
Right.
We need to stand united on the free trade.
Premier Ford, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We appreciate this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.